We're back.
Well, I don't,
Another great week.
yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
it's sunny outside today, which
The
is
sun has
just
been
really
coming out.
adding life to myself.
You might actually have to, after you guys get done like with some workouts, let the garage door roll open and you guys just lay and bake.
Is that a try to get a tan?
I think
Suggestion?
So, right? I mean, because you guys are all about it. I know like during the
Hey, babe, maybe you should lay in the sun for a little bit.
I'm not-
Really pasty. Not all of us have caramely skin.
all I remember is when like Molly would come by, you guys would lay out there on the sun.
Oh, feels so good.
You know, like or even Jen when she came by, you guys would just lay out in the sun.
White girl problems.
You know, which I think you guys can lay out in the sun. It looks like you guys, because you guys have all been spray tanning at one point or another during this cloudy, overcast season, winter.
I have not gotten a spray. I got a spray tan for our wedding. That was about it.
I feel like you've gone a couple times after that.
Yeah, I went right before we went to
Miami,
the Bahamas.
Bahamas, yes, and then Miami.
It's a wasted spray tan. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so it's cool. I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, I think to start,
Mm-hmm.
we should just talk about that tattoo that you have on your arm.
Oh, okay, all right. Well,
Because that's the big news of the week, I would say.
it is the big news of the week. I got a tattoo of the key logo for street parking.
The street parking key logo.
I did.
And you don't even have any tattoos, and that was your first choice for tattoo.
It was, and now that I'm like, it's like sinking in that it's on me, you know, and I brought it up to Jaime when we were at Chipotle. I was like, it's still like pretty hidden, unless like I'm staring at it, but like we're just walking around, I just kind of forget it's there.
No, like when I'm looking at you right now, I can't see it because you got your arms on the armrests and it's facing you, and I can't see it. But people around here were pretty shocked about you getting the tattoo. Jaime, I would say, was one of the most shocked people.
I heard you were scared, and you said it was like a bad omen.
I just don't want you to jinx us.
With what? I mean, I'm not jinxing anything. It's just like a tattoo of like what's meaningful to me.
Which I can appreciate.
Yeah.
I can appreciate. This one time was an exception.
Yes.
Yeah, I just didn't like. Yeah, I mean it was. Yeah, it's just it's a bad omen. Was the best way to like.
Right.
Do you have like a chick's name on you somewhere
I
that
know,
we
are
don't
you
know
worried?
about? Or have you had to have tattoos removed? I don't know. You don't have any tattoos either, do you?
It's just, no, I don't actually. I almost got a bunch, but it's
A bunch.
but it's the football player that gets the tattoo of his current team,
And then he
gets traded.
shifts
Yeah,
to like gets traded like a year later.
that was the first thing I thought of. But then also like,
But he owns the football team, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
right, so obviously you're not getting traded.
Yeah, not getting traded.
But then it's just like I don't know. It's just I don't know.
It just you were just worried.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I
He has
wasn't
commitment
worried.
issues. Obviously,
For
he's
sure.
lived here since July, and he still doesn't even have living room furniture.
Come on, hi man. All right. So anyway, I got this street parking tattoo of the key. Honestly, because it's kind of street parking has evolved to being more than just workouts, which originally it was just workouts and parking in the street and everything. But now, just with how much has changed our lives and how much has changed the lives of other people from what they've told us and how strong the community is, just what it's just family, just everything. I mean, where we're at now is because of this, obviously different events, but street parking has kind of brought all that together. So it's a part of us. It's like it's our child as well. So I got the key tattoo mostly because I saw other members getting it too, and I was just like, man, and I kept telling them.
How many members do we have that have the key
I
tattoo
would say at
now?
least 4 or 5.
I would say 5+. Yeah.
5+ for sure. And
Big ones too.
Yeah. Oh, those were. Yeah, they were
calf
definitely
one?
the calf one. There was like like forearm ones, but they were like solid black. But I wanted something that wasn't just solid black. I wanted something that was very simple. But then as I started like digging into tattoos, I was overthinking it.
He was really overthinking it. Like
She was
showing
worried.
me.
I know. I can tell she was so worried about it.
Well, yeah, you were showing me pictures of like some almost like portraits, and I was like, okay, that's not even our logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The logo's
I was
simple and it's
I was
clean.
really worried about it.
And so I found, I finally landed on something, and it's super simple and it's great.
It's just our logo.
It's just our logo, exactly what it is. Yeah, because it's easy to get carried away with tattoos. I noticed, as it is easy to get carried away with a lot of things, but it being my first one, I was like, oh my gosh, and then I started overthinking it, and then it came back down to simplicity, which is again what street parking is
Yes.
simplicity.
Yes.
So it has a lot of meaning to me. because of just where we're at now. And it was like a no-brainer for me. I know I've always wanted tattoos.
Really? Because I thought you didn't want them.
I just never wanted to be the person to get meaningless tattoos, like tribal. It's like, well, why would I get tribal tattoo? Especially being in like LA and things like that.
Would you say that the street parking logo is tribal?
Interesting.
It's our tribe.
It is our tribe now. But like people that Mexicans getting tribal Hawaiian tattoos, like what?
I know the tribal thing is weird, or the armbands.
You can tell those people do it because they think it looks cool, and things fade out, and you're just like, okay, well, that was. I think it's just so much better when things are more meaningful.
You have to have it be meaningful.
So same thing. I'll get 2 more, which will be the dates of when we got married and Knox's birth, and they'll be in Roman numerals, and it's going to be on my chest, on my my left pec, and I think, and if we add another addition to the family, then I'll put that date as well. But that's it. That's where I'm kind of sticking to, unless there's other meaningful.
Maybe Chongo's face.
No, definitely no portraits. It was funny because I called my cousin. I called my cousin and I told him about it. He's like, "Oh," he's like, "Whoa, have you ever thought about getting a portrait of Knox?" I was like, "No."
Talk to him about it.
I know, because his tattoos are really aggressive.
I can't even believe you brought this idea up to him.
I told him I got it.
Okay, good.
I told him I got it. Knox is at the store. Does need to stop by.
I mean, it depends on how we're getting text messages. It depends on how long he's at the store for.
No, he's on his way.
No, because I think we'll be in here for a little bit, and then we're just gonna go to the house anyways.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. But anyway, that was so I'm pretty pumped about this, to be honest. Now that it's sinking in, I feel really good about it. No regrets. No regrets.
I think it's important to explain why I said this is a loophole, because it's where you were before to now, and why it's so meaningful. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was gonna say, because I was, to be honest, to be 100% honest, I was a little weird about it too, because I'm weird about tattooing logos on your body. For the same reason, it's like, oh man, well, what if we change the logo, or what if we decide we hate it, or whatever? Which obviously, we can't picture that now, but you know. So I was weird about it too at first, but then actually, as I thought more and more about it, and thought more about you and how you felt about it and how excited you were about it and stuff, actually, I think it's really cool, because I don't think it represents Street Parking Incorporated, the company, to you. It represents a lot.
Yeah, all the changes that got us to where we're at now.
Yeah,
which is a lot of deep stuff.
So what I was telling Jaime before we came into this podcast is I thought that I think it'd be kind of cool to get more of Julian's origin story on this podcast.
What part? What part of the origin do you want?
I'm not going to go too far deep, but I was telling Jaime that I feel like my origin story of, at least in fitness, is a lot more well documented than yours.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I was around all the camera people, and because I just documented myself.
No, yeah, for sure. You were definitely on it, which is good.
And I feel like the people don't know as much about you as they know about me. And so I was gonna, try to use the tattoo conversation as a segue into that. Okay.
Well, fine. We'll start where? At what point in my life?
So, yes. So I want to talk about how you grew up here, basically in this area, and then what happened.
Okay, so at 17, it's all started when I was 16, I think. So originally, obviously, the goal, I think my brother at the time and my mom were out in Portland, and they were at the mall, and they saw this whole, the Barbizon, right? You remember Barbizon?
I remember the advertisements.
Yeah, they just it was searching for talent, go this and this and that, and it was just a big
It's like the FNX group.
If you want to go there, for sure. But I think that.
Oh my gosh.
So it started from there. They signed me up for these classes. I went.
So Barbizon was it was like a talent agency.
They're looking for models and actors. Yeah.
But specifically teenagers and kids.
Yeah, for sure, exactly, because they were
what could go wrong?
I know, right? Seriously, but it was kind of rough at the time because I lived in a small town where it was very conservative and things like that. When they think of models and actors, They think like, really flamboyant and things like that. And so I got picked on a lot and bullied a lot for that. I didn't care.
So your mom and your brother come home.
Yeah.
And what do they say to you?
But hey, they didn't say. They're like, hey, we're going to Portland. Next, just Friday came around the corner. Like, hey, dress up nice today, and I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, all right. I mean,
just pimping you out, or
yeah,
what?
pretty much. And then we went, and then
but your brother didn't want to do it.
No, he didn't. I don't know why.
Interesting.
I know. So I get there, and all of a sudden I'm like in this talk. They have a group of people. It's like the first meeting, right, to kind of sell you on Barbizon, and then you do like this they made you do like a little. They gave you like a paper that had like a little monologue on it, just to kind of go over it, and then they had like a little runway set up. It was all ridiculous.
Oh, you did a runway walk.
They make you walk through it and all that stuff, and just to kind of like hype it up, And they're like, oh, we think you'd be great here, and the people, the representative.
They test all the skills and figure out which ones you have.
Representatives want to tell you what they see really quick based off of glance. Like, I think you'd be great here. You have a potential future here. And
thank goodness they didn't say runway model.
They really sell you on all that stuff. So anyway, my parents signed me up for the classes. It was like a 2-month course. Every Saturday I would go up there. And then at the end of that,
you were 17? No, you were 16 at the time. Yeah.
At the end of that, this is where they try to get more money out of you.
Of course.
Right? Because they teach you the most ridiculous things, right? At that point, I was like, oh my gosh. They're like teaching you classes on like makeup, and they give you like a starter makeup pack.
They gave you the makeup?
And they gave it out to everybody, because in reality,
I should have been to that class.
Actors wear makeup, like you on set, male and female.
I feel like how often are male actors doing their own makeup?
It was just weird. It was odd for me, because I was just like, I'm just here to be an actor, or whatever.
I'm glad you didn't get too latched onto that either.
Yeah, so they kind of like have you prep some stuff, like a little showcase, and then at the end of that, then you like present it in front of the parents and all that stuff, and then they bring you into another meeting, and they're like, okay, this is the big show. Like, we're going to LA. There's going to be tons of like managers and agents, because it's true, there was a bunch of looking for new talent.
It was a legit business. But they had multiple. But they weren't actually. They made most of their money on the classes, not in actually making people celebrities.
Exactly, the classes and building the confidence of people. There. Because once you get presented with that pitch idea, it was like $10,000. I mean, for the whole thing.
That was a lot for your parents.
It really was. It was like a big investment for them for sure. And you get hyped and sold on the idea. So I went with my mom at the time, and. He did the whole thing. There was like a bunch of kids, because they come from all over. Barbizon was like all over the nation, So I would say there's 500 plus kids that went to that event, and then they take you through the whole thing. Like you have little heats or whatever, like time. You
went to the regionals of Barbizon,
right? Where you're doing your monologue at this time in this room, and you're doing your runway walk at this room. You're doing this at this time, and then all these different things. And you're like, wow, you kind of get an idea of how fast paced things really are, and. I kind of blew it. I didn't really prep much for it, because I was still in sports, and that was to me more important. Yeah, so
at the time you were like big into your high school wrestling team, right?
Big time, for sure. So I felt bad, because I got more sucked into like the partying aspect of it, because coming from Tillamook, right, they have like the night, like, okay.
Hold on, I never heard about this.
At nighttime, they would do like the dinner and then just like dance party kind of deal, right? Which
you just wanted to meet the girls.
Pretty much. Because it was something new, right? Because coming from a town of 4,000 people, your high school has only 700 kids. You want to get out of there.
Yeah.
Like you're looking for, especially since I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't have college dreams or hopes or whatever. And so that to me was like, okay, but I blew it. I didn't prep the way I needed to. And because at the end of it, you get put in a room and they give you like a list of all the managers and agents that want to see you, that were interested in you. And then I didn't have a big list. I was like, shoot. And so I was like, well. So then come and go, the weekend comes and goes, and you just come back at home and you're like, wow, well, nothing came from that. And then so they present you with the idea of potentially, oh, well, if you come back, you didn't get any opportunities then, you can come back, and it's like half the rate. So at that point, I felt bad, because my parents put so much money into it. And I was like, okay, because I had saved money from working at the Tillamook Cheese Factory, scooping ice cream.
Ice cream scooper.
I was an ice cream scooper. So then I was like, all right. Let me put up the money that I saved, which was like $3,000. So my parents only had to put $1,000.
Not too many high school kids, at least when I was in high school, had $3,000 just chilling in their savings account.
I definitely put the money down, and I was like, shoot, because I used to help my dad at the dairy. He would give me the bonus checks from when I was 14. So I had money saved up.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is it. Like, I'm going to try now. And I did. I actually tried. And it was a totally different experience. I went by myself this time. No, I went by myself this time, kept my parents updated because they had kind of experienced the whole thing. My mom did. So, okay, we can't go with you because we don't have the money to afford it. It was expensive. So I went and I took it serious because of that. I was like, I can't let them down. I put my money into it. So that's when you know you're like, shoot, it's go time. And it went well. It was one monologue that really captured. It was like a sitcom monologue that captured my agent's attention. He literally went running outside of the room and he was like, I want to sign you, like straight up. And then on top of that, then I did another thing which got the interest of like two managers. And so I had multiple people interested in actually signing me. And they were like, where's your parents? And I was like, they're not here. And they're like, we want to talk to your parents because I was 16.
You're right. You can't sign anything.
I was like, they're like, you need to bring your parents now. Like, this is serious. Like, we want to sign you. And there was like multiple people. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And at the time when the kids hear about this, right? That's their dream. They want to be signed before the weekend's over. Mm-hmm. Which, because that was when I was seeing that last year, the previous year, I was like, dang, like that's what I wanted to experience. So I called my mom and my dad. They literally left that night to drive to Cali.
They drove. Weren't you in San Diego?
It was in LA, like Universal Studios Hollywood at the Hilton.
Oh,
Hotel.
okay.
So they drove down there, 16-hour drive, and we had the meeting, and they were like, okay, like, look, in order for this to work, like, I'm sorry, but he has, like, what grade is he in, everything, and I was a senior. I had 5 months left to graduate. Like, if he wants to start, like, we're ready to send him out on auditions now, but he has to move. So I was like, okay, and we drove after the weekend was over, said and done. We had a big talk about it. And I told him, I was like, I don't know what else I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to be serious. I'm going to give this a go. So then 1 month later, moved down to Van Nuys and with my brother. And
because your brother was out of high school.
He was out of high school.
He had been graduated.
Yeah.
Your brother is 2 years older than you?
He is 2.5. Yes.
Okay.
So then
and you were a senior.
I was a senior.
By now.
And the thing is, I wasn't, and that's the thing where I really, really wanted to go because I was not on track to graduate. I was rebelling so hard my senior year because of like family issues that were going on. And I was just ditching school, everything. I was behind like 20 credits or something, like really behind. The only way I was actually able to graduate because in LA, the school that I went to offered adult school right immediately after class. So I had to go to it and really commit myself to it and finish. That's the only way I was able to graduate.
Okay, so you have like 5 months left of high school and your parents are like, you know what? My 17-year-old and my 19-year-old, I'm just going to send them down to LA by themselves so that you can become... Why? So was part of it that your brother had to go with you?
Well, he also...
Or did he just want to go?
They obviously wanted somebody to watch over me. I know, like, obviously, this is all new territory, okay? So, you know, he had a job lined up through our godfather at a furniture store. So there was that. And then my parents were going to help pay for rent as well for me on my end so I could finish school. And then, you know, I finished school and then...
Hold on. Where do you live? You first moved to LA. Where do you live?
We lived in a hotel in Van Nuys for a month until we found a place called El Cortez.
Like, were you like paying like nightly? Like, how do you pay for a hotel for months?
And over there, you can negotiate.
Would you call it a hotel or like a motel? Were the doors on the inside or the outside of the building?
Outside.
Definitely motel.
For sure.
Good rule.
For sure. So you negotiate a rate. You say, hey, I want to stay here for a month. So then they tell you, okay, this is how much the month rate.
Yeah, it wasn't a Marriott.
Definitely not. No way. I mean, I think it was like $700 for us to stay for a month.
Oh my god!
You know, the safe thing was it was across the street from Target, closer to like a nicer part of the city, like closer to Sherman Oaks a little bit, but it was still sketch. Anyway, my brother got a job. I finished school, and then I attempted. So the funny thing is that I attempted to go to college, community college, which was right across the street from our high school. I remember.
Yeah, you did tell me you went for like a day.
I went for like a month. And then I realized, like, what the heck am I doing? Like, for general classes, like, it was taking away from auditions. And I think all that was part of the thought of, like, you having to go to college. Because that's the thing to do. Keep in mind, this was 10 years ago. So much has changed in 10 years with how much people are realizing now that you don't need to go to college.
You're right.
You know, because back then it's like, go to college, find a job, this and this and that. Things were a little bit more kind of old school even then.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And then fast forward to now, I look back and I'm like, dang, like, but that only works for so many people. I think it can work for people if you're lost and don't know what the heck to do. Instead of doing nothing, do something.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you might find an interest.
Mm-hmm.
But since I already know what I wanted to do, which was acting, I just, at that point, ended up getting like I landed this job at this thing called XTREME bootcamp.
Yes.
Because I was dating and
Jaime,
funny thing.
let me find you the photos from XTREME bootcamp for this, because there's this one in particular that I think is at your dad's house. It is incredible.
But the starting pay was like $20 an hour.
Dang.
Per class. And it was like 3 classes a day. And I was like, all right.
Wasn't it like an affiliate program almost where you
It was a franchise thing.
Okay, yeah.
So it was a franchise that started taking up like kind of like Barry's boot camp. It was like up there. They were both growing at the same time. And that thing was like a military kind of.
Yeah. So tell, what did you have to wear? What was the uniform?
You had to wear like army pants, camo army pants, and like the belt and the like boots, and it was like it was something. It was an experience for 6 weeks.
Was the haircut that you had at the time part of the uniform, or was that just a personal choice?
It was definitely half and half, right? Because the haircut was definitely like something that kind of fit the role, but then I added like the spiky hair, which definitely fit.
He had like the steps,
the super cheesiness to it.
Steps, and
it was
earrings.
The reggaeton look, because that I started getting into reggaeton as well.
Okay, so yeah,
like
so
Daddy Yankee, Don Omar, all that stuff.
This is like okay, so what happens to a 17-year-old
that has no influence and guidance,
attractive guy who wants to become an actor? What happens when you move from a town of 4,000 people to Los Angeles so quick like that? Like, how would you describe what happened to you?
You get easily influenced by the wrong people. I would say that for sure. Luckily, when I first went out there and I was in high school, I was hanging out with other people that had kind of I've met also through the Barbizon thing that were already out there and did the same move previous years. And so they were kind of like, they were like, all right, hey, come hang out with us. We're doing a house party. It was all house parties, like ridiculous, like every weekend. And I was just like, luckily I wasn't big on drinking, actually, even at that time. I just didn't like it. I didn't like beer or whatever. So that was a good thing that I just never picked up too much.
Jaime didn't have the same experience.
And also, there was a lot of it too that I didn't want to let my parents down, in the sense that like I didn't want to go out there and tell them I was going to do something and then be a drunk and like actually waste my time.
Mm-hmm.
I was always pursuing the right thing, but sometimes just not being influenced and guided by the right people, right? And those are things you start learning. I started learning along the way, but then family issues started happening back at home, which kind of disconnected my parents.
Yeah, because there was like a long period of time where you didn't really talk to your parents.
I didn't, because they were going through like divorce situations, and then I just was like I didn't want nothing to do with it because I was kind of in shock, but I didn't want to be a part of it, right? Because of all the stuff that was going on back at home, and it wasn't cool. I didn't know how to, I was never there to experience, because I was getting both sides of the story and everything. And so I got to a point where I just would not talk to my parents, which opened it up for more disaster to find the wrong people to influence, right? I think one of my first relationships, I was out there. The first relationship I was with, I was dating like a girl that was an actress. And what's sad about it is I kind of only dated her because I was like, oh my gosh, she's an actress. And
she had a show. She was on a show
on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
And people knew her that I went to high school with her. Like, oh my God,
really?
really?
It's like dating the popular chick in school.
Yeah.
It's no different.
They're like, who are you bringing to prom? She was a year younger than me, but she was homeschooled.
But he was only 17.
And she was 16.
He's still only 17 at this point.
Yeah, so I was like, oh my God, I'm dating an actress, which I met with one of these house parties because the kid, like young actors scene, they all go to the same auditions. They all kind of start meeting each other and all this stuff. It's like a small little world, right? Every world has its world.
Of course.
There's the auditioning world where you all of a sudden book a show on Nickelodeon. What? Like everybody knows about it and it spreads. Or you go to a party, they're like, that's the girl that booked the show, or that's the guy that he just booked the movie. It's really weird now that I think about it, right? It's like a games athlete walking into a room. And
everything's a high school. Everything's just like its own little mini high school.
You're like, oh my God, that's the games athlete. Oh God. Like, don't be weird, So I was dating that person, and that was kind of a cool phase, but it only lasted 6 months. That's when I kind of got the boot camp job. Things were actually going pretty okay, because her mom was a doctor in Beverly Hills, a weight loss doctor, and really smart nutritionist. Like,
she could send you boot camp clients.
Here's what I'm grateful for, because she actually paid for my first 6 weeks of boot camp, which in turn she's like, I want you to do this with my daughter, but she knew that I didn't have the finances to do so. But then when I did that and I heard they were hiring, and then I was like I was 18, I was in shape. So I got in shape real quick, keeping up with instructors. And I was like, hey, like, how old do you have to be and all this stuff? And they're like, I think you'd be a great person. And
nice.
So I got a job there. It was I was starting to pay my own bills at that point, except my cell phone bill and, certain things. But
except my cell phone bill.
Was it this really?
Oh my gosh. I definitely need to find the picture of him in his boot camp outfit.
Oh man, that's super cheese for sure.
Or is that 17-year-old?
No, that's 19.
19.
That's 19.
Yeah, he's gained at least 20 pounds.
I did. I had
between 17 and that photo because
from
he was really
17
thin
through
at
19.
first. Oh,
that's
he's
20.
like at least 20 years
That's
old
20.
in that photo.
Wow.
Yeah. From 17 through 19, I gained 20 pounds.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you first went there, you were skinny.
I was skinny. I mean, yeah, I was very skinny, and then I started.
Oh, that you got to put that. A clip of that needs to go in this vlog.
I'm okay with that. It was super cheesy. It was like my first independent film I booked, and it was like
Becoming
low budget.
Eduardo. How old were you when you filmed that? That was one of the first things.
19.
Okay, so
It's like full paparazzi right here.
oh, God.
Yeah. Oh man.
You
yeah, for
look like
sure.
the biggest.
So I would say
sleaze
this,
bag in
like
that
this
photo.
is where like and then at 19, after that relationship ended, then that's like when it opened the the door for like, I was starting to go out more, and and then I met during these boot camp days. I met started dating. I did a relationship with someone that was 12 years older than me. I was dating a 30-year-old, and I was 18. That's when it really went downhill.
Well, because you said that you and I have like we are maybe more open in like our past stuff
Yes.
than a lot of couples are,
It took
and
a
so
while.
we know a lot. We know everything about each other's
Yes.
history.
Mhm.
So, but you said that like one thing that really changed for you. So your parents were going through a divorce.
Yes.
And then you found through your boot camp classes, like all these like married women were like
Yeah.
part of your boot camp classes, and they would all complain. They were miserable. You heard of
Yeah.
like all this, and it's in LA, like all this drama.
Yeah. Also divorce, all this stuff. Just
It like changed a lot for you.
It did, and I started seeing things in a different perspective, right? Like I didn't start at that point. I didn't start believing in marriage, right? Because of what my parents were going through, what these women were talking about, and their gossip, coffee things, and all coffee talks, and after they'd hang out and just chitter chatter with each other and all this stuff, and then. Then the lady I was dating that was 12 years older than me had gone through 2 divorces already, like, and it just so much in like instability in their personal lives. And it just kind of at 18, seeing that, like, you're still molding who you are as a man. And so all that stuff was happening, and it just kind of changed the way I viewed a lot of things, relationships in general.
And also,
I had a fear of commitment.
At like 19, he was like dropping kids off at junior high school. This
Oh, yeah.
lady had kids
I
that were
think
like
that's-
closer in age to him than she was.
I would say that was the one moment where I realized, like, what the heck are you doing?
But you
Like,
lived at her house
I
too.
lived at her house. I try not to view it as like, I just, in my head, I kept trying to view it as like, no, we're roommates, because my brother moved in. And so the other boot camp instructor really quick, like, that's when I started realizing, now that I think back, I didn't have the issues. She had the issues.
No. You're like a child
Yeah.
still.
And I was just, at that time, I was like, I'm dating an older woman. Yeah, I'm so cool. I'm 18 years old. Like, but no, it's not
You
cool.
were like
'Cause
picking her kids up at
then
junior
when
high.
my brother moved out, and then the other kid roommate moved out, then it got more serious. And then her kids, like, were in Bolivia at the time, so then they came back, and then they started moving it. They moved in, and then next thing you know,
Now you're dad.
Now I'm taking both of them to school, and I'm just like, whoa, what is going on here, And so started affecting my acting stuff. So then that relationship ended. Then I started going really consistently with acting stuff. But I was afraid to be alone, because at that point I didn't have my brother anymore. I didn't have my parents.
Yeah, because your brother went home. Your brother came back. Yeah.
I was afraid to be alone. So I think that I was, starting to see people and date people for the wrong reasons, more as like to fill like a gap of loneliness, and that was a huge distraction. Now that I look back as to what goals I was trying to pursue, then I booked a couple great roles, and it was going really good. Back to being focused and everything. I was getting out of this toxic environments that I was in. And then, because I was shooting one of the films, I was gone for like 2.5 months in Michigan, getting to really see the behind the scenes of a big budget film. And even that started opening my eyes to like how miserable even those people are, and how like
the big actors.
I was very naive to all the drugs and how much drugs were heavily involved in the entertainment business.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy. Like, I would see Coke, and they treated it like it was just, me eating my Lucas salt and sugar powder, my powder. It was like their candy.
It was like tahini?
It was like tahini. I was like, what the heck? And a lot of it, thank goodness for my grounded roots.
Yeah, because when I got to know you, I was really impressed by the fact that you didn't even really drink, and you were in that industry, and you didn't really, like, when you and I were getting to know each other, you said that you never like had gotten into like drugs or anything like that, which was really surprising to me, because I would have assumed that anybody that came to LA at such a young age and got thrown into that without their parents even being there and all this stuff would have definitely got involved in that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I experienced it with a lot of my friends that they kept, even 4 years later, they were still doing, the ones that hadn't had like any projects booked. You could see it. Their confidence was beginning to get really low, right? Because you can only hear no so many times before. And, you start getting really bummed out and start really questioning yourself and get really unmotivated. And you can see it. They started gaining weight from all the weekend partying they started doing. It got to the point where even I got to a point where I was just like, go to saying no. Because after I would book these roles, I would sometimes randomly, I just wanted to go to get praise in a sense, because like I didn't have nobody else to kind of like give praise to. I wasn't really close to too many people, but them, like, because I knew them from when I first started. But again, like, then next thing you know, I was the one buying like all the food. They're like, hey, come over, we're having a barbecue. And then next thing you know, I was the one buying all like I remember the first time when I got back, I went back and I started buying the brats and like better quality stuff. Then I realized that nobody else would bring much stuff, and I was the one providing for like I was like, okay. So then I started noticing there was a trend, because then I had booked another good role that was a big feature film, and I was like, okay. They invited me again. They were proud of me. They're like, come on, let's celebrate. So I was like, sure, yeah. But I was like, I got smarter and bought like the dollar links, like the francs.
Just come up with like, those like
I bought the cheapest
wieners
stuff, and sure enough, nothing changed. Like they brought like really like quality drinks and stuff. They would buy their money on alcohol, and I was like, Jesus, like I can't continue to be a part of this. Like it's not fun. Luckily, so anyway, there was just a lot of stuff I realized from that 4-year window before I found CrossFit.
What about the purple Scion?
Oh, that was another thing. Like when I started booking these roles, instead of doing the smart thing, keep in mind, this was like around 2008, 2009, 10, where the smart thing to have done would have been to invest in a property.
Yeah, because the real estate market was really
oh my
bad
gosh,
back then.
like I had just got done booking these feature films. I had like 40, 50 grand in my savings account as a 20-year-old. But being when I got back from those projects, I was still kind of like involved with that. I couldn't get out of this toxic web with that woman that I was not in a relationship with, but still like kind of guiding me in the wrong way, saying she still wanted to help me. She didn't want people to take advantage of me, but yet she was the one taking advantage of me.
Yes.
And, I ended up buying this stupid purple Scion, even though I already had a car that was like new at the time and it was reasonable payments, like... But then I bought, I don't know, I couldn't believe that. And then next thing you know, I completely X'd out this lady, and now I'm stuck with like 2 cars. And
because you got like a loan like through her
aunt,
sister. Okay.
Through her aunt, a private loan through her aunt to get this car. And oh my goodness, like that was the beginning to something really bad, because at the end of it all, 2 years later, like, I started really learning about high interest rates, because I ended up because I had a 2-year contract with her. I ended up taking out a loan through Loan Mart, 1-800 Loan Mart, to pay that off. But they lock you in with like a 25-30% interest rate.
And this is the whole window where you're not talking to your parents at all.
Nothing. None of this is being talked to my parents, because they're still going through like I just didn't want to talk to them, because I knew what it was going to be about, and I didn't want to be a part of it.
Because I love your mom. She's Knox's current nanny,
Yeah.
and we're with her every day. But I've said multiple times, like, I'm sorry, but if Knox, as an 18-year-old, was dating a 30-year-old woman, I would be on and lived there. I would be at that house so fast.
I would heavily interrupt.
And just try to figure out at least what's going on, or make my presence known that I'm like keeping my eye on it or something. But you weren't talking to them at all.
No.
Or if he bought a car like that, I would
have just. But the thing is, like, I think I brought it up to them, but hearing no from them immediately made me like rebel.
Because well, that's the age. Yeah.
But no, it was just I was so angry at what was going on back at home that I was like, I'm not gonna like. I am financially independent. I am my own man now. I'm making my own decisions, and I just like no. And so I got it, and then like I said, fast forward 2 years later. After I got did with this Loan Mart thing, I was just I couldn't believe it. I was that was the beginning to like me like spending my money on dumb stuff, like wanting to impress girls, try and fill that empty space that I had, and guidance. And so next thing you know, I was getting my car repo. I got my purple car repoed. And I literally
How was that? Did they come to your house? Where'd they take it from?
They came to my house at the time.
Where did you live right now?
Now I moved into like my own house,
okay,
a
so
3-bedroom. The 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom.
Oh, the house that
you've met me at, yes.
Okay.
So, the repo people came to pick up the car. I literally handed them the keys and I was like, "Here you go, take that thing." And I did not even care. I was so over it,
Dang.
And so now I had accumulated debt. I was, in collections and all that stuff, and I was just living very irresponsible. But I had luckily what kind of gave me that, because I was going through my savings account, and I was getting to a point where I was scared. But somehow Red Dawn had accumulated, I got a residual check from Red Dawn for like $15,000, and then another one for $9,000.
Nice.
So I was just like, I started crying. I remember I started crying because I was like, wow, this is unbelievable.
Because you weren't expecting it.
No. I was not. And I was like down to like $5,000. I was scared, which is even still impressive because a lot of people don't have $5,000 in their savings accounts.
No.
But I knew because I was.
But a lot of people also have like regular jobs where
exactly,
it's like they know when they're getting paid next.
Exactly. I didn't. I was like out there hustling cupcakes. I was doing things, and I just got this burst, which allowed me to. I was like, you know what? I was very conservative with my money at that point after learning many, many bad lessons.
So you did. You can't check your text messages.
It was my mom. It's
you did Becoming Eduardo. You did like some random things. You did. I think the thing that people recognize the most is the Suits episode.
Yes.
Which came first, the Suits episode or Red Dawn? And then what was the other one? Haywire.
So
those are like the three main ones that people see.
So at first, actually, it was funny because it was the first project that started. I was like, cool, this is awesome. It was like I booked a Hallmark film. And then from the Hallmark film, I booked.
What was the Hallmark film called?
I don't even know anymore.
Jaime needs to know.
Chasing a Dream, I think.
Chasing a Dream.
2008.
Yeah. And
first you became Eduardo, then you chased a dream.
No, it was Chasing a Dream. And then I went on an audition for Becoming Eduardo on the day I had off. And my agent was like, go to this audition. I think you're good for it. And then I booked it on the spot.
How would you describe Becoming Eduardo as a film?
A mistake. a learning lesson. A learning lesson. But it was cool because I met good people because it was a lot of kids that they had hired from local schools in New Mexico. So you met real people. Like it wasn't people that have been in the industry for a long time. Like they were, they loved the industry. They were just like talented. They were like, after we got off of set, they would just bring their drinks, but they would like musicians. So they'd bring out their guitars, and we stayed at this like small town in New Mexico. It was cool. It was a cool experience.
Okay.
And I got to work with some actors at the time that had pretty good resumes, which in my head, I was like, what got you here to the point where you're shooting Becoming Eduardo,
Yeah. Because there are like some randomly like kind of well-known people in that.
It was really weird.
Movie that it looks like I filmed with my iPhone.
No, for sure. Absolutely. The iPhones now could have filmed that movie.
They didn't even have 1080p.
I was like, wow,
whatever
1080p.
It is. Yeah.
It was so crazy. But so that was that experience. And then I think like 5 months later, I had booked Red Dawn. And then Haywire a month later.
So you were like, I'm Brad Pitt at this point.
And then
it's Purple Scion.
Yeah, and then
90210.
Oh yeah, I paid like that. I don't even talk about because I was
too
a waiter.
Late. Jaime found it.
It says Latino waiter.
It's exactly what I was. I had to. I couldn't believe this because that audition. I remember specifically going to that audition because I went in there. It was like. I had just started CrossFit, so I was kind of ignoring scripts. I was like, wasn't prepping as much because I was falling in love with CrossFit.
Because whenever you get into something, you just go really deep into it. Yeah.
And I was looking at it, and it was like 2 lines. It was like, something, can I take your order, or yes, ma'am, or something like that.
Masawa?
It was so, and then I just remember I was like, all right. I'm like looking at it as I'm driving to the audition, and they're like, and I was like, okay, just do it in a Mexican accent, just for fun. And I did it with a Mexican
Do
accent.
it. Do it right now.
I was like, "Sí, señor," like with like super stereotypical Hispanic and how they talk.
That's what they wanted.
And I booked it, and I was like, "What?" And it was like $1,000 for like being on set for like 4 hours. But I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" And then I had booked the Suits episode, which was I actually really enjoyed that one.
That was the one that you're the most proud of, right? That's
Kind
what
of,
you told.
yeah, because
when we like first started dating, you were like, if you're gonna watch anything, watch the Suits episode.
I actually acted in it. And
yeah, you weren't just like an action character. Or
yeah,
like,
I actually acted in it, which was the purpose of going to LA in the first place.
So that's what I was gonna say. Okay, so how long did you work for the boot camp thing? How long did you do that before you stopped doing it?
I would say 18, 19, 20, 2 years before then they sold the franchise over to these new like super geeky owners, and then they got rid of the whole staff, and then I created my own thing, and I was just training clients at that point.
You were training clients at your house.
Since 20, yes.
And
Well, at first it was at parks, and then I got into the house at 21, and then I started training people out in my backyard.
And we've talked about before, you were also this was the hustling cupcake days.
I was also like, I got to make some money to pay off this loan of this purple Scion.
Oh, okay. So the cupcakes came because of the Scion.
Absolutely, 100%.
And you would make cupcakes because your mom had a bakery and taught you how to bake.
How to do stuff, and I was like, all right.
And you would go to hair salons and nail salons, mostly hair.
Whatever. I was going to nail salon, hair salons.
And you would make like liquor infused cupcakes.
I started playing around with things and everything. And it was just like, I would go sell cupcakes and stuff for sure. Mm-hmm. And I was making like good cash, and I was like paying off these loans. I was paying off.
Did you do that in a Spanish accent?
No, definitely not. No, definitely not.
Weren't you going to like salons?
Yeah, hair salons.
Oh yeah, I was going to hair salons. Really over the top cheesiness, like flirting with like older women and everything, and just to get the sale and everything that looking back, oh man, I really wish I had more of an education. I wish I was, I knew that I had more value than to count on my looks.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because I definitely took I started getting these women saying that I was good looking and all that stuff. So then I really embraced that, which is not it's cool to embrace it, but don't live life basing things off of just your looks, right? Using your looks to kind of get ahead. The one thing I would do now is just I wish I would have paid more attention in school and educated myself more and found a way to be more because I have a certain way of learning, right? I'm very visual, and I like to experience things hands-on to really grasp an understanding of it, as opposed to reading. That's boring to me, and I think it's boring to a lot of people, to be honest. You have to figure out what is the best way that you learn. That's why I'm excited for Homeschooling Knox, kind of rewinding to or fast forwarding to what we're planning to do, to figure out what the best way that he learns, because,
But here's the thing: 9 out of 10 kids, with their master's degrees, get put into LA by themselves with no direction, like maybe little direction, and then they end up with almost no money.
Yep.
In that same situation, they go running back home immediately.
100%.
Nobody has the street smarts.
Well, yeah, because that's what I was gonna say. Like, one thing that you had going for you, and still do so much, is you're just really confident and you're really good at talking to people.
Well, another thing that kind of fueled my motivation, I knew I just didn't want to go home. I was like, I will not go home.
Yeah,
because it was want to go deal with that.
Super drama over here.
I knew that there was a wave of, I would have been depressed if I would have gone home. I literally used that as fuel to just make sure that I did everything I could to just stay afloat. And I did. And with that savings that came in through that Red Dawn residual, I guarded that because I already made all my mistakes.
Oh, I know you guarded it.
And the fact that I didn't pay any of my debts with that, I was like, nope, I'd rather just go in collections and let them just keep calling me. And I was like, I refuse. This is for whenever something comes up. I was like, if something happens or I get sick, because I didn't have health insurance either. I was literally just doing things to get by. And I knew that I had this $25K in the savings to, if something went wrong, that I could just, I had something to keep me safe,
So one thing that I've asked you a bunch of times, would you say that you became an actor because you're super passionate about acting?
No. The fact that they took me there and I had no experience, I never talked about acting. I think they literally took me there just because they were like, oh, my son's a good looking kid and you're
good at talking to people.
You're good at talking to people. And then, but again, one of the things that I'm a big believer in, and we talk about all the time, it's as many mistakes that I have as many mistakes as I have done, and how many bad experiences I have done as well. The minute I chose to face them now, which was like I would say 2 years ago, I faced all the mistakes that I have done.
A little bit more.
More than 2 years ago, I had faced all the mistakes and all the insecurities and all the things that I had done that I wasn't proud of. And once I faced that, I don't regret anything.
No.
I don't regret anything, because now it's put me in the position where we're at today. And, I've become very experienced in all the things not to do. Mm-hmm. I know as funny as that sounds, but it's like that's truly how you learn a lesson, and what you choose to take from every experience, right? I took all those experiences and just told myself how not to do that again, But it's truly when you choose to deal with that and realize what you did wrong and not choose to hide from it and run away from it, that you could actually grow from that bad experience, And I think once I've shed away all that, and which a huge part of it is because I knew I had to man the fuck up to date a woman. Like, you're a woman. And as much as confidence as I had, I also didn't have that confidence because I never dealt with all of the things that I had to deal with, So, which now where I'm at now in my life, I feel at peace because I've dealt with all these issues. I've made my mistakes, and I, kind of now I'm in a path that I feel very happy with because it's true. It's true to who I am right now. And a lot of the stuff that I was doing was not true to who I was. It was what people thought I should be doing, so I was doing it. And I think people fall into that trap all the time. So the sooner you can realize what is it that you want to do and what makes you happy and not what makes other people happy, that's when you'll find this ultimate peace, I think. And you may not be making the top dollars, but you'll at least be happy. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody comes around full circle, thinking they want something, and then they get there and they realize that's not what they wanted. Mm-hmm. And I think I went through all of that, and now I've come full circle. So, yep. That's a little bit about me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's why this tattoo means so much.
Exactly.
Because once I got rid of all my bullshit and dealt with all my insecurities and dealt with all my mistakes and really faced all that and overcame it, it's because of where I knew I wanted to be, where I actually wanted to be. And I was like, this tattoo means everything that I've overcame.
Well, it's funny, right? Because I would say that you were really good when I met you, of the confidence was so high.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
That when you're almost not, I wouldn't say you're a completely different person, but there's you're a very different version of that person now than you were, because and we've talked about it a lot, where you came across to me as somebody who had zero problems in the entire world, so confident, so had it all together, everything.
But now what I've learned in my experience, the people that are overconfident are the people that have most issues, actually.
Yeah, because I came in hot. I literally on date number 2 told him all my issues and my whole backstory, and he was not in the space to do that for himself yet. So
yeah,
it was yeah. I kind of led with the I'm gonna tell you every possible piece of baggage that you might eventually find out, because it was my quickest way of figuring out if he was still gonna like me or not. He took the opposite approach. You just kept it was more than a year into our relationship before I found out any of this how you were basically only valued yourself for a long time, of how you looked and all that stuff. I didn't know any of that for so long.
I mean, yeah, because I just never wanted to appear weak.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was just the molding of someone who felt alone. And then, over time, and just kind of told myself not to show weakness, because you didn't know who was there to kind of pick you up when you felt most vulnerable, So, and I didn't have my parents there at the time. They were dealing with their own things. So, yeah, that's why I definitely seemed way over the top, for sure. And I look back, because you've shown me some of the emails or texts before that we shared, and I was just like, what? did I say to you? It was so cheesy. I was like, I couldn't even believe that I would say that. But it's like, gosh, I am so glad that all those moments are over for sure, you know. And now, just, you know, even when it comes to dating now, like, I feel confident now to the point where when Knox gets older, giving him proper dating advice, right? Obviously him making his own decisions, but guiding him and steering him away from, like, the bad decisions that can happen.
Well, 'cause you had really bad
mentorship
from your brother, your dad. Like, even your dad is kind of funny because him and your mom were super young when they got together.
Yeah,
so
sure.
he did it, and then lived in a small town, and so he wasn't the best guide.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had to learn things definitely the hard way for sure. You know, so if I were to be the person like 10 years ago, what would I do? I would just self-educate myself as much as possible, spend more time doing that than more time trying to go out and finding people to fill that loneliness, because it's true. Like, I know that you see it in cheesy quotes all the time, but, you know, sometimes you being alone is like when you're most at peace. Yeah. You know, but I just was afraid to be alone, so I never was at peace. You know.
Well, when I met you too, like, you do have ADD for sure, like that could be diagnosed, but you couldn't sit still. You had to have something going on at all times. Yeah. Like, and I'm more of like hey, I like to chill at home and just like be at home and just chill. And I'm totally fine doing that. Yeah. But you always had to have like some extravagant like plan for every time we were together, and some like big like production every time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is now we've just, you know, we have our date night and it's super simple, and, you know, we, based off where we're at in our lives, it's just, that's so fulfilling. You know, we'll go watch a movie and afterwards go grab a coffee.
So nice.
It's just very peaceful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but there's a lot of noise in LA. There's a lot of noise in big cities in general, which is also what people fall into the trap of. They get trapped in all the noise that's going on, and it just doesn't really give you a place to be at peace. That's why you see a lot of random, like, people coming up with all these different styles of working out. Oh, fitness in the water, fitness on a goat, fitness on like a, you know, all these different random things that are coming out, and classes.
They're so bored of their own, just, like, they're so like
what's wrong? It's just the same thing. What's wrong with simple workouts? Like, they're so effective.
Yeah.
You see all these like, oh, come do yoga with us at this inside the house that's decorated like the forest and the woods. It's like, what? It's so weird, like, right?
Yeah,
like,
everything's
my
like
rooftop,
a gimmick.
I'm gonna play you this beautiful music, like you're in the heavens. You know, you're gonna close your eyes, you're gonna connect to the sun.
But what
and
you
they
don't
just turn
really
on,
realize
like,
is you're just like breathing in fumes of the
because people
highway
are
that's
so,
across the.
Yeah, people are just so like consumed in this noise, and then they just want an outlet and the peaceful. They're searching for peace. You know, you think it's peaceful sitting in traffic?
No, it's the worst.
It's peaceful going out and get rejected all the time when you're an actor and you think it's peaceful trying to find a job and getting, you know, these interviews and not getting a job. Like, there's just, you know, thinking that it's you that's the problem. I mean, sometimes it could be you that's the problem, but, you know, find what you are good at, what makes you happy. Yeah. You know, that's what the beauty about all this new era of things that are happening, all these new businesses, and find your niche market. You know, like, we met one of our members who lives in a freaking castle.
She does live in a castle.
A castle. Like, it's a legit
Have you seen the castle, lady?
Who, Caitlin?
No.
It's like a real, like, I mean, it's in the United States. It's not like she's not like out in Scotland in a like old castle.
But you would think that she's in Scotland.
But it's because her husband does the swords thing.
Yeah, so because Miranda asked him, how did you?
I was like, what's up with this castle?
We met him in Wadapuka.
Yeah, we got to get you a photo of this castle.
He literally made all his money through making exact replicas of all the swords and weapons that were in Game of Thrones.
And he sells them, and they have a castle.
And he sold so many of them that now he used that to make his freaking castle.
Can he get us a sword share?
I mean,
street parking sword.
If you want, it's for sure. Like, it's so crazy, you know, like
summer camp sword fights.
I remember, like, throughout some of these times and the people I'd met, I encountered some people that lived in like the beautiful homes and these successful, and I would ask them, like, you're not there. And they weren't in the industry business. This is when I was like going out hustling cupcakes, and I would get invited to like these, or I would deliver the cupcakes to these events, and then they were like, stick around, and I would have conversations with people, I was genuinely interested. So I'd ask like the men, like, hey, like, what do you like? Like, what do you do? And they would tell me. And some of them were like, oh, I sell phone accessory parts, and I get all my parts through like they get them from different parts of the.
It's like so random.
It's just so random, and they're living in these huge homes, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like just the most random things, and you're just like, wow. That's the one thing I would say that I did enjoy about that is getting to like pick people's heads as to like, what do you do? And realizing that how creative. I mean, I was working for this lady who lived in a great home in Sherman Oaks, and her business was Pooch Potty. That's what it was called.
Oh yeah, I remember he did Pooch Potty. You did that. So what about that job?
It was like when I was training people, it was one of my clients that I met during this XTREME bootcamp. She was like looking for people. She's like, hey, do you know anybody that would be willing to work? Like I pay at the time. She was like, I pay minimum wage, $10.50 an hour for an 8-hour shift. But all you got to do is deliver these pieces of sod grass to all these, people that it's like a service. Every 2 weeks they would come in, or every week you would go and you would take the sod grass to these people that live in apartments, take it out and put a new one in, so their dogs that live in like apartments can go pee on this sod grass on the balconies. And the route
replaced the Pooch Potties.
And the route was so quick. All these routes were probably like 2-3 hours long, and once you dialed them in, but you would get paid 50 cents a mile, and you would get paid a full 8-hour shift, even if you only worked 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, you just have to time it right.
Yeah, and I was like making boot camp money, and on top of that, Pooch Potty money.
Did you ever have cupcakes and Pooch Potties in your car at the same time?
It was a different phase.
Okay,
no, so I did not.
That's good. That's good.
Things are legit.
Oh yeah. I know the owner of that thing. It was just crazy. I was like,
one of those
wow.
for Paulo, so it doesn't have to leave.
But it was just such a niche. Like it's a good market in LA and busy
in those
city.
apartments.
So I was delivering some to these like penthouses and like Wilshire Boulevard, and the people were home, and I was like what do you do? And people that when you're going to Wilshire Boulevard, you're starting to meet people more that are like in the industry. Like the music, it's not even like the celebrity faces. It's more of people that
behind the scenes,
that successful people.
Yes.
You're like, whoa, no, it's crazy. But yeah, that's a little, all the experience. I mean, I learned a lot of street knowledge for sure. 100%. So I also got really good at as I started to get older, the people that are like, were BSing you more so, so now it's kind of, if I get that BS vibe, I pick it up right away. I get like I get really defensive.
I would say that's true, but on the flip side, you almost, when I met you, you basically had this idea that everyone was BS.
I did.
You thought that I was BS.
Yeah.
In a way.
I thought women, well, that was like as far as dating goes, because I dealt with so many shady women, and you keep in mind, like I was also being shady, like, so it's just kind of like you can't really ask to not be be with somebody that's not shady when you're being shady yourself. So it's just kind of like, that's what's so crazy. I look back and what I evolved to, even my morals, and being being with somebody, going to truly believing in marriage, and like all that stuff, and then to not trusting women, and to thinking relationships are too good to be true because they all end up in misery and not being happy. So you're right. You met me at that phase, which was, you had to deal with a lot. Yes. So yeah, that's like, and that's a long story, obviously, but when I think of your tattoo, that's what I think of. I think of all of that and how it's not just us getting together, because we got together and we were together for a while before street parking was a thing, and we were still in Southern California, and you were still dealing with your meal prep business, which had a lot of nightmarish qualities. Oh my gosh. If you're doing a meal prep business, don't.
Just shut it down.
Just shut it down right now. Don't let it grow oh my gosh, that is a nightmare. Yeah.
And you still were not who you are now when you were doing the meal prep business. Like, I think that you still didn't really realize like how smart and how capable and how like just what you could do and offer people in their lives. Like, it was just food, and you knew how to cook, and you grew up cooking, and you were a games athlete, so they knew who you were, and there's your food. And it's not, you still weren't giving yourself a lot of credit, I think. But I think, like, with this, you've, like, really come into more, like, confidence and learned so much and, like, really, like, grasped onto, like, learning about the business side of stuff and everything.
For sure. Absolutely. And knowing what I'm good and what I'm not good at. Allowing, like, letting the team grow that is passionate about the mission and letting them be good at what they're good at. And also, like, taking the time to learn, too, so you can just, like, understand. That's the beauty of it, right? Like, creating your own business, you want it to do the best possible, so you kind of learn how to do as much as you can. You want to be a Swiss Army knife. So at least you get an idea if someone's, like, BSing you or not, which is what we're going through with a lot of technology companies right now. Yeah. So, that's, there's more to it. I mean, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of things that I still don't talk about now, like things that I do like, but for the most part, that was a lot of the chapter of a, I would say, a 10-year window, right? A 10-year window.
Like 12.
From, a 12
17 to 29.
Yeah. And, what's sad, too, is that some people don't. Luckily, I got out of it, and it took me to meet the right person to get out of it. And I think a lot of people don't get out of it. Because, honestly, if you wouldn't have stepped in my life, I would have still been doing the same thing. I would have not faced all the insecurities I had. I would have not chose to become a better person. I would have still had the mentality of not believing in marriage, still had the mentality. I wouldn't have had knocks, right? Our relationship, street parking, like all that stuff. And I look at that, and it would have been a sad. And so say what I would have booked more acting roles, but I never worked on myself, right? So, and I think you get a lot of people that end up, even though their success may seem great, if you actually look internally as to what's going on internally, that's why you see a lot of people that are always going out and getting drunk or doing drugs. It's how they drown out the miserable lives that they're actually living, even though on the surface it looks like their lives are going great.
Well, especially now, like with Instagram and social media and stuff, like
big time.
Oh yeah, they show like the red carpet and they show the parties and they show the like all this, but then like nobody knows all the like
nobody really wants to be there. Like, they just want to go to be seen, but no one's there to make like really good connections.
They go there to get the photo for Instagram.
That's what it is, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
And people make it defensive about them, like, oh no, it's like no. Here's the thing: is like we wouldn't be talking about this if we haven't actually experienced it. There's one thing to talk about something and clown on it if you've never experienced it. Now you just look like a fool, Jillian Michaels. But if you've actually lived it and you've done it and you've seen the behind the scenes, and then you choose to say something about it, like, you have the right to. Some people may get butthurt about it because not every case is that case, but for the most part, a high percentage of it is that. That's why I will say this: you will get actors, the people that the top A-list ones that have made it are out of it. They want to get out of it. They are moving away. They move out of LA. They have homes in different areas. They want to, it's like, again, it's that come around full circle. You go do something, you achieve it. And those of you who, those are people that are still trying to achieve it and don't get that break and they get stuck in that. But those people that have achieved it and they realize what it's about, some people may love it. But for the most part, depending on like where your grassroots are from, a lot of people like to get out of it. Like, oh man, I'm good. I've done what I need to do here. I feel successful. I feel good. I'm out.
I'm gonna go do something else.
For sure.
Yeah. And
I think that's one of the things for us with competing.
Yeah.
Like we've done it. We've experienced it. We're out. We're doing something that allows us to be with each other, with the family, and find a balance. With as much of the best balance that we can find.
Still working on that.
Still working on that, but hey, these are our priorities now, not that.
Yep.
So
simple.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Well,
we'll do an episode on you.
Oh,
next time pre-CrossFit maybe, because that would be really because I think your story pre-CrossFit is so much better than CrossFit.
Oh my gosh, there are some photos.
Because you did a lot of cool stuff in CrossFit, overcame a lot of injuries, but pre-CrossFit, like there's like your interior designer, like the people you dated, like like not multiple people dated, but there was like certain relationships where, come on, like we look at it and we're like, what the heck, you know? But so we'll do that.
Okay.
I think that'd be really cool.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me just ramble on, guys. I was not expecting that.
He took the bait.
You did. Yeah, you gave me you hung the cheese in front of me.
We will dive into the nerdy stuff at another time.
Cool.